Hi, welcome. My name's Alan. Hope you're well. Welcome to our presentation of the Discovering Buddhism course. This is via Vajrayana Institute in Sydney. And this is the first of the 12 subjects in this course, which take possibly maybe over a year and a half to actually present. Each module of the 12 lasts about 4 weeks. Most of them are the same length. And this is the first module called Mind and Its Potential. So thanks very much for being there. And I hope you're well and surviving the lockdown if you're in Sydney. And if you're new, welcome particularly. I'll probably teach the course. If there are probably some people who are not new, welcome to them too, but I'll presume that there are some new people, so I'll do some introductory things, particularly seeing it's the first subject of this cycle of discovering Buddhism. So my background is I'm just an older student, much more a student than a teacher. I was around when Vajrayana Institute was established in when was it? Early 80s, around about 82, 83, by Venerable Roger, a very senior monk who's now Lama Zopa Rinpoche's personal attendant. So I've just basically been studying off and on Buddhism, trying to practice, still very much a beginner, still trying to focus the mind for more than a minute or two when I'm meditating. But I've had a lot of probably lots of teachings, and read quite a few things, trying to practice, trying to integrate it, which is what the study of Buddhism is all about. It's as much about practice as it is studying. So my day job was a lawyer. I trained as a lawyer and worked overseas quite a bit, particularly in the Pacific region, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Vanuatu, and so on. And then I actually taught law for the last 10 or 15 years of my career. And now I'm actually retired, which is incredibly wonderful. So I don't miss work at all. So hopefully you've got the materials. So what we do, if you're new, is each week I send out notes for that topic that we're doing for that week by email. Of course, we're 100% now online. We can't do anything live at the centre. So it's important really, if you're going to study the course, to have the materials. And for those who've already tapped into the course, I've sent all the materials for this subject, Mind's Potential, quite a lot of readings. I've also sent a reading list and also some transcripts of teachings of people who've actually taught the course. Quite a lot of material there. You don't have to read it all, of course. So what I thought what I should do is to actually put my email address in the side on the screen for anyone who's just watching either live or the YouTube replay. So you can just email me and ask for to be put on the mailing list, the email list. When last time I used this YouTube interface, there was actually a little place at the side that says "Say Something," and it's gone. I was going to actually write my email address there. I don't know, maybe it's a different screen. During this week, I'll have to find out how to get that back. Anyway, if you're listening, my email address is almarsh, that's all one word, ALMARSH, at aussiemail, ozemail.com.au. almarsh at aussiemail.com.au. So if you just drop me an email and say that you'd like to be on the mailing list, I'll be including you on the group email each week. So what we normally do before we start each teaching week is just do, say, 3 to 5 minutes of breath meditation to calm the mind. I thought maybe we'll do that. Some of you might have been working today, but it's always good to actually settle the mind for a few minutes before we launch into the actual teaching. So let's get comfortable. I'll talk about this at the end of tonight's teaching. I'm going to do a more detailed explanation of mindfulness meditation. Just for the moment, we'll do a really simple breath meditation. Main thing is to get comfortable. You could be sitting on a chair, you could be cross-legged, if you can do that, or you could be lying down. Main thing is to have a very comfortable physical position, and that will help to relax the mind. If the body's relaxed, the mind will relax. And then we'll just use the breath, coming and going of the breath, just focusing at the nostrils there. You can close the eyes or have them open, whatever's more comfortable. And just focus on the breath. Sounds so easy. The theory is easy, the practice is difficult. So what we do is we notice the breath. Usually the mind will be distracted after a really short time, particularly my mind. So we're focusing, the breath is what we're coming back to, but we're also just keeping an eye. This is called introspection, watching what we're doing, watching the breath. So that's like monitoring. And if we notice that we've just been distracted by a thought or a sound, we just come back to the breath. We just check and come back. We'll go into it in more detail later on tonight. So let's just start. Just coming into our inner world, letting go of the busy day we've had. Time to let go of the distractions and come into our breath, watching the breath. Calm the mind. Return the body, speech, and mind to its natural state. No need to change the breath or judge. Just watching what's already going on, paying attention to the breath. Checking now and again, where are we? Are we still with the breath? If we're distracted, relax, just a thought. Patiently let go of that thought and come back to the breath. Just come back into the world and relax. Normal breathing. So the schedule is an hour and a half for each week's teachings, which was pretty easy to fill when we had live classes because we had some sort of interaction, question and answers, discussion. But without any of that, if we're just doing online, sometimes it's quite difficult to listen to someone for an hour and a half and also to actually talk for an hour and a half. So I'll talk usually till about 8 o'clock or before, somewhere around that. And then we always do some practical meditation, maybe for about 15 minutes after that. And so we may not use up the whole 90 minutes. The main thing is to keep the thing moving along. And if I can get those questions are more than welcome. So those of you who have my email address by email, and I don't have to name you or anything, but I can just answer the question at the next class. And if I can get this little column back that used to be there that called chat, and I think it said say something. Somehow that little column has gone, and I'll try and get Rain to tell me, see if I can get that back, because that will allows you to make a comment, say hello, or ask a question during the class. And even though I may not answer it immediately, I might, if I've got time, I can actually see it there and be able to maybe answer it at the next class. I love questions. Questions are great, or comments, and it also makes it a little bit more interactive, the discussion and the class more interesting. So you'll see from just looking at what I sent out, there's a group of bundle called readings. So that's I think they call it essential readings. But that's the whole course is designed and written and drafted by people in America in the FPMT Education Department. The organisation that runs all these centres is called FPMT, and the head office is in America. So they, and of course, at the head of FPMT is our main teacher called Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and so most of the teachings, these things, required reading, they call it, required. So each module has this set of teachings called required readings. They're actually extracts of teachings given mostly by either His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Lama Yeshe, who together with Lama Zopa Rinpoche set up this organisation called FPMT, and are the head of the centre. So Lama Yeshe passed away in the early 80s, and now Lama Zopa Rinpoche is the spiritual head of the organisation. So there are various teachers in these extracts, but those are the three main teachers. Sometimes, because the teachings, those extracts, sometimes are taught to groups of people with not necessarily the exact subject that is the focus of this module, of each module. Sometimes they'll cover other things. So, they say, the people who design the course, that if you can just read some or all of the teachings of those extracts called required reading, it will help to give you some background and some understanding of the ideas, concepts. So there's actually about, in this lot, I think there are about 37 pages. Sometimes it's too much for everybody to read. So I'd usually suggest one or two of the extracts as being easy, good ones if you've got limited time to read. And there's one by Lama Yeshe called Everything Comes from the Mind. It's only 2 pages in the the essential reading for tonight, but it's fantastic introduction to the Buddhist philosophy of mind, or the theory of mind and the practice of mind too. So there's the required reading. Then there is a required reading. There's lists of books and sources that you can use. Quite an extensive list. And then there's also a transcript of a senior teacher who's taught the module. And it's a different one for each module. Tonight's teaching, Mindfulness Potential, or this 4-week teaching, is the transcript is taught by Thupten Yeshi, who's a very senior teacher in the organisation. Used to be ordained nun. Now she's a layperson. So that's quite a big bundle of teachings. I think she's taught this subject over probably 6 weeks, more than 4 weeks. So it looks a lot, and don't feel you have to read it. But if you connect with her style of teaching, it's quite a good source to use. So that's by Thupten Yeshi. And then there's notes that I just put together for each week, what we cover each week. It's just this is the first, because this is the first week of Mind and Its Potential. The first page is just called Weekly Outline. I've got 4 dates with just topics of what we might cover. Sometimes things change and I don't get to cover all the topics exactly as I've scheduled. So that's just a little document there, whether you can read it, called Weekly Outline. Anyway. So that's just a 1-pager, and on that I've actually selected some of my own favourite books that I've found very helpful, whether it says further reading. And if you prefer to do online sources, Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive is a really good website, Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. If you just Google LYWA, you'll come up with Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So what it is a whole set of different teachings by Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa, and the Dalai Lama in different forms. A lot of them are verbal, audio, podcasts. Some of them are with video as well, and some of them are just written transcripts. It's just an amazing amount of variety and choice of teachings there. The good search engine, so you can just put in, so if you put in Mind and Its Potential, it will come up with a whole range of different teachings. So that's one good source, and then there's a few other books there I've listed. Becoming Your Own Therapist, very good one by Lama Yeshe, little booklet, and also available on Amazon, and so most of them are available in digital form. The main one probably is Approaching the Buddhist Path, which is by the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and edited by Thupten Chodron. And this is a whole series of different volumes that are now coming. They've only come out in the last few years. So it's the Dalai Lama teaching basic Buddhism to Westerners. So he's specifically putting out this series for the Western audience. So it doesn't presume, a lot of the old texts were actually, they're texts from Tibet, taught by incredibly learned masters like Pabonka Rinpoche and so on, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand and so on. They're very high texts and very worthwhile reading, but they're actually taught to monastics. They're taught to monks and nuns in Tibet. So they presume quite a bit of pre-knowledge. Most monks and nuns in Tibet would grow up assuming or believing in reincarnation and the whole cultural tradition there that Westerners don't have in their education. So that's why these books or these teachings that are specifically for Western, Lama Yeshe's teachings, Lama Zopa's teachings, and this series by His Holiness the Dalai Lama are really valuable and very good for us Westerners, particularly beginners Westerners. So there's a list there. Now, without too much more of this kind of introduction, that's sort of the overview of the course. I think so basically each week we'll do talk, and then we'll do a meditation. And if there are any questions, we'll deal with those as well. So it's beginners. It's credited. I think they sort of say this is sort of an intermediate course. But even though there are 13 modules, Discovering Buddhism course first came out in the early 90s, there was kind of a strict thing of exams and people getting certificates of completion. Doesn't seem to be, it just, most people being so busy working, they weren't able to just do a whole year and a half non-stop. And some people did, and some people finished each module. But others came and went. So it's not necessary for you to do each module. I'll teach each module as if there are beginners who just come in, joining the course for that module. But the course is actually designed to start at the beginning and move through. It's getting slightly more difficult topics as we go through. So it certainly definitely helps to, if you can, to do each course one after the other, but not necessary. So, and there are also questions that come with each, at the end of each module on the last week. I send out a list of questions. If you want to answer them and send back answers, you're more than welcome. But have to be by email. But if not, because it's not possible to have a proper discussion, I'll send out answers to them in the last class as well. So, and there's no exam as such. All right, well, I hope you enjoy the course. I guess we should just have a look at the first topic. I've actually got a question there, why study Buddhism? So this is mainly just for you to think about yourself. What, if you are new, or even if you're not new, what originally drove you to be interested in Buddhism? So this is very interesting. It's basically for yourself to think about, and there's no right answer, of course. For me, it was probably in the early 80s. I went through the normal Western education system, and then I went through university, did arts degree, law degree, and very fortunate, to be able to get such good education. And then did some, didn't feel completely happy with, the career that I had ahead. So I took some time off from work and went to India, as so many people did in the 70s and 80s. The hippies, I wouldn't say I was a normal hippie, I was slightly hippie in outlook, looking for something more, I guess, the very privileged life growing up in Sydney was somehow not enough. Like many, I was very pleased when I got to India, and I luckily just found this course in Kopan, which is in Nepal, being taught by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, and was found another 100 or 200 people from the West, all Westerners, Australia, Americans, European, who had the same sort of need for something more and were looking for some sort of truth. This is the time when there was a lot of revisionism, people questioning authority, and looking for something more than the materialistic consumerism of the West. And so just by pure luck, the timing was amazing, because at that moment, during those 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Tibet was being invaded by China, and all the great teachers, not all, but many of the great teachers, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, fled to India. And so they brought with them the extraordinarily valuable teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. So the loss of Tibet was the Westerners' gain. The Westerners' gain. The West, for the first time, was able to listen to teachings from these Tibetan masters, which were 2,500 years old. So there's a little notice that just came up on my screen saying the connection is unstable. So I will keep going. Sometimes we do lose connection, but I'll keep going. It's just one of the hazards of the NBN, particularly at peak viewing time. So where we're, so that's basically the reason that I sort of got interested was because I just had questions. I did a philosophy course in Sydney University and in arts, my arts degree, and didn't answer any of the questions I had. I just felt it was almost a complete waste of time. But as soon as I started hearing the teachings from Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa, of these Tibetan Buddhist teachings, it made an incredible connection, and I thought this is what I'm looking for. So then, of course, we have to come back from Nepal and India and live our normal lives, make a living and so on. But luckily it was that time that they were setting up these centres, Vajrayana Institute being the Sydney Centre, where we have had a Tibetan teacher called a Geshe giving teachings. And so this organisation, set up by Lama Zopa, has many, many centres all around Australia and all around the world, teaching Westerners the essence and the central teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. But I guess the point I was making is, as you read these teachings, books and teachings by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, particularly Lama Yeshe too, they make fun of people, intellectuals they call from the West, like people who've done a lot of study at university, approaching Buddhism as an intellectual pursuit, to collect more information about religion and study it. So they say this, if you're doing it for an intellectual reason, Lama Yeshe used to say it's better to learn how to make Coca-Cola to help us live better lives, to help us not just live better lives, but actually live extraordinarily better lives and use them to actually attain what is called enlightenment, just like the Buddha did, a perfect, pure, enlightened mind. An enormous goal, but this is what the path, graduate path of Buddhist teachings will lead us to if we follow them. So yes, if you approach it with the idea of just purely obtaining more information, not much use, but if you've got a reason to do it, it could be a personal problem, or it could be just dissatisfied with the way, the lifestyle, a very materialistic, materially comfortable lifestyle that we have in the West, looking for more answers, then definitely that's what it's a very good reason to study Buddhism. So they've chosen this topic, mind and its potential, because I guess it's the first teaching that I remember Lama Yeshe giving was that everything, the importance of the mind to solve our problems, discover the source of our problem, and to obtain happiness. So looking inwards at our inner world rather than the outer world of material comforts and so on. So this is an inner science. Lama Yeshe says, make your the mind is your religion. Very interesting phrase. Your mind is your religion. So that's if you think about it, by understanding our mind and acquainting ourselves with the incredible potential of our mind and utilizing that potential, will fulfill all our spiritual aims and wishes. So in many ways, Buddhism is not a religion. It's focusing more on solving our own problems, using our own powers, mental powers, and our own inner resources to make life meaningful and to obtain happiness and ultimate happiness forever. So rather than relying on some external creator or some materialistic goal, perfect job, perfect house, perfect career, and so on. The Tibetan teaching says that this one says it's actually within our own minds. So it's actually really practical. And often the teachers say that there's actually nothing greatly mystical about it. It's just learning to how your mind works, and then applying the teachings to calm the mind and restrain and harness the potential of the mind. So this inner science. Just having a quick look at my notes, seeing where I am. It's amazing how quickly time gets away. So just a few points that His Holiness the Dalai Lama makes. I'm on just looking at the page 1 of the notes, if you actually have the notes, tonight, the ones, a couple of pages I've just put out. The Dalai Lama is asking why the mind matters, why it's so important. And he compares the Western approach, which basically doesn't really have a definition of mind. He says basically that the Western science is looking outwardly, how atoms work, how subatomic